We are going to bring in Jonathan Horowitz now, our horse racing insider, brought to you by the Celtic Tavern.
Where are we going to put him?
We're going to put him on a chair right here, and I'll move over.
I think him standing would be a good look because each week
that's how I announce horse
stylish.
races. Yeah.
Well, then we can see your socks too. You always wear great socks. What are your socks? Let me see your socks.
Oh, today is sort of a geometric pattern, different shades of blue.
Nice.
Yeah.
Those
are very nice.
Were you actually doing
Sure.
that before we put you on the air? Were you dressing like this?
Yeah, I was, and the sock thing started from traveling so much for announcing, and you have to take your shoes off at airport security. So I just started messing around with rubber duck socks and hot dogs just to see if I could get people in a really tense environment to crack up a little bit.
You wear hot dogs as socks?
I've worn hot dog socks.
I can't believe anybody's actually trying to cater to TSA personnel. Oh, well, I made them.
They work very hard.
Maybe they'll let you sneak something through or something.
Should I open our horse racing segment with my usual American Pharoah question?
Sure.
American Pharoah.
Then he's going to ask her, Mr. Ed.
American Pharoah, the Triple Crown winner, in case nobody knew that, has announced, or his handlers have announced, because he doesn't talk like Mr. Ed, his handlers have announced that he will be racing in August at the Haskell. Is this somewhere where he should be racing?
Is this a race named after a guy who was in Leave It to Beaver?
Why the Haskell?
Eddie Haskell Invitational.
So
why?
When you look at the calendar of horse racing, and the big year for horses is their 3-year-old year, it starts out where the horses race in their own regions. There's the California Derby races, the Florida Derby races, the New York Derby races, and there's so much money that you don't really have to travel. You can just sort of stay in your region and compete for the big money, and then they all come together for the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont. And then once the Triple Crown finishes, they all go their separate ways. But there are 2 big races in the summertime. One is the Haskell, one is the Travers at Saratoga, and that's where horses come together from around the country and compete in. So this is a very logical step for horses who finish the Triple Crown to run in the Haskell. And for American Pharoah, it sets up well. His trainer, Bob Baffert, has won the Haskell 7 times. The track tends to favor speed horses, and American Pharoah likes to race on the front end. And the owner's from New Jersey, and so you're going to have a big local following. And he's talking about bringing Bruce Springsteen out to make it sort of like a Super Bowl type atmosphere for a Super Bowl type horse.
Makes sense.
And sing the national anthem. Who would be a good idea for singing the national anthem at Haskell? Maybe bring in some donuts.
Bruce Springsteen?
No, bring in some
Ariana
donuts.
Grande?
See, I didn't know who she was. I thought she was a dish at Taco Bell.
The Ariana Grande. 3 for the price of 1 this week after every Rockies win.
Rockies win.
Oh, my. Okay, so the event you just described, that's capitalizing on a Triple Crown winner. How much is in the works, and how effectively can horse racing capitalize on this wave of interest in horse racing?
That's the big thing, because just winning the Triple Crown, that's not going to be what saves horse racing.
Right.
It's how you capitalize on it. And when American Pharoah won the Triple Crown, what I compared it to is when Butler went to the Final Four, VCU went to the Final Four. That's not going to make your program better. It's how you capitalize on it.
You have to make hay.
Ah, very good.
Just thought I'd throw that in there.
And so that they're capitalizing specifically on American Pharoah, and racetracks around the country like Arapahoe Park. We're taking advantage of this interest in horse racing. So now the casual sports fan pays attention to horse racing, and they're coming to Arapahoe Park. So we have to be in place to make sure they have the information they need, make sure that they enjoy their day at the races. And so I think the big capitalization is you get a whole new group of people coming to the racetrack, and now it's up to the racetracks to have them enjoy their day and to continue to keep coming back.
Speaking of that, have you seen a spike in attendance, interest, and number 2, we talked early on when we started this weekly segment about you had 2 horses of some note last year that actually brought attention to the track. Is there any horse out there this year other than American Pharoah that you're paying a lot of attention to and saying, wow, boy?
We have seen a spike, so I get the numbers after each day, how many people came to the track, how much was bet on the track. We're up actually 15% in betting handle, and that means not just people coming to the track, but people from around the country who are betting on Arapahoe Park's races, and we're up 5% in attendance. We average, we race Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Saturday, Sunday tends to be a bigger crowd, but the average crowd is now about 2,000, and that's a pretty good crowd for coming out to the races locally in Denver. And so a lot more people are coming out because of American Pharoah. And then when they come out, to the question you asked about the horses locally that they're following, now they're seeing some star horses, and so they know American Pharoah, but then they see a couple stars here in Colorado. One is an Arabian horse, Miss Dixie, who's one of the best Arabians in the country, who was last year, and she's racing again this year, and she's got a stablemate named Patty's Day. For quarter horses, this weekend we have 3 Olives and Smoke running in the Rocky Mountain Futurity, and so that's a horse who's won a couple of times, so people come out and recognize the name. And in addition to the attendance and the betting handle, now we're getting a lot more coverage of our races on television, on the sports show, in the Denver Post, and so that's contributing it to as well.
You do it local. You do a show at altitude every week. You're still doing that, aren't you?
We do. It airs tonight. It's at 6:30 and 11 on altitude, called Gates Open at Arapahoe Park. And the theme for this week's show, sort of when you come to the racetrack, horse racing has its own language, furlong, exacta, trifecta. So I wanted to explain some of the vocabulary so that if people watch the show and come out to the track, they'll have a little bit of knowledge about the races, but also certain everyday expressions we use, like chomping at the bit, inside track. They have their roots in horse racing. So it's horse racing language, and then also how horse racing has influenced everyday language. There's a segment that we did with a Denver Post reporter, Nick Kosmiter. He covered the Triple Crown run. He covered Get Happy Mister, and he talks about the influence that American Pharoah's Triple Crown has had on the races at Arapahoe Park. So I like the behind-the-scenes footage that we're showing, the analysis that we have on this TV show.
Yeah. You left out the one that entered American society, I think, is Why the Long Face. I think that's more than...
Don't beat a dead horse.
Glue Factory is head for you. I'm going to drag him out there. He will speak at the opening of a refrigerator. I have been with him. If you open the refrigerator, he's going to do 10 minutes and introduce everybody in the room.
And then he'll raid the refrigerator.
If I drag his butt out there, will you let him do part of one race or something?
Of course.
What, as a track announcer? I'm not doing that.
Come on.
Here they come, spinning out of the turn.
That's great.
You like
yeah,
that?
just now do it for a minute.
Yeah, forget it.
Yeah.
Bubblegum
sticking to the rail.
It's a big weekend there this weekend, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Colorado Derby?
Colorado Derby. Yeah. And so every state has, every country has its Derby race, and we have our Derby race this weekend for Colorado.
How would you do Here They Come Spinning Out of the Turn? Let me hear it.
That specific phrase?
Yeah.
Well, that's a famous phrase from Chicago with
know.
Phil Georgette.
That was great.
Yeah. No, I have a Phil Georgette
come.
phrase. I think it's like, Here they come spinning out of the turn. I don't do it as well as he does, but that's one of the famous phrases.
He's Jonathan Horowitz. He is the track announcer at Arapahoe Racetrack, and also our insider, our horse racing insider, presented by the Celtic Tavern, where you can bet daily on off-track horse and dog racing. So watch live and bet daily and sip from a selection of more than 350 whiskeys.
All at once.
All at once. That's a lot of straws. Just 2 blocks west of Coors Field on Blake. It's the Celtic Tavern.